Hi everyone, my name is Paul Young. I'm going to walk you through transparency and ethics as part of the overall government voting process. So this is really going to focus on all levels of government, whether it's municipal, provincial, state, or federal government. So I'll talk about integrity, I'll talk about ethics, I'll talk about how people vote, I'll talk about how campaign promises are funded, I'll talk about misconceptions around key policies like the wealthiest 1%, and then I'll get into specific questions you should be asking of your politicians. Integrity, in a roundabout way, it's about being honest. So when somebody's making you promises on a campaign trail, you need to assess those promises, whether or not they're truly being honest, whether or not they're factually based on something that's affordable that can be paid. And that's some questions you need to ask, because a lot of cases they're going to make promises to get elected just to get into office, but honesty and integrity are critical aspects of a politician in terms of how he's viewed. Ethics. You don't want people that are getting sweet deals under the table to influence their decisions. You want government officials to make decisions that's in the best interest of you, not by lobbying groups or other people where it could be on the surface of optics, where ethics or undesirable behavior would mean you're going to do things for your own benefit, not necessarily the benefit of the people you're serving. And this goes into all government officials, that you want to know that they're acting in the best interest of your country or in the interest of your constituents. Now, what do you ask questions when they come door to door? First thing you should be asked, is this person going to make my life more affordable? So all these promises of free education, healthcare, and all that, how are they going to be funded? How is that going to make my life better? Is this person going to ensure that my kids and grandkids have a future? In other words, the programs and policies that they're going to bring in, are they going to stimulate the economy to support my kids and grandkids to have a career that they can end up funding themselves in terms of housing and a life can lead to family and kids for support? Here's a question I always ask people when you're talking to a politician, and treat it like your private life. Would you date a person that has no ethics or integrity? Would you want to spend the rest of your life with that person? The answer is probably no, you wouldn't do that. So don't judge somebody based on the surface of just their statements. Assess their characters, everything around their character flaws. Go do some digging on the internet about where they've served in previous roles in government, or some of the rhetoric around them in terms of their functions of what they did in a particular ministry or a department or agency. That's something you do. Do you date based on looks? Probably the answer is no. You might initially have the connection on looks, but there has to be more to it. So you get to know somebody because you want to peel away the peel to get to the banana. That's what you have to do with your politician. Don't just look at them because they look like a GQ or a model. Are they substance? Do they bring some value to the table? Is what you should be asking. How do people vote? Typically, it's fear. You're scared. You're scared that the next person coming in is going to be worse than the first one. Leadership inept. You've lost confidence in the leadership. Leadership is corrupt, so you've seen scandal after scandal or waste of money. Leadership has a nice smile, has a good appearance. Leadership has no personality. Leadership have no ethics. A lot of these are emotional traits, and what you need is peel away from that and look at policy, and that's what you should be voting on. Why do people vote on emotions? Because it's fear. People are scared. People rather vote in the devil they know versus the devil they don't. Mainstream media is about sensationalism. We started this in the mid-90s when we started doing more reality TV. So a lot of people are looking at sensationalism, and they don't necessarily measure that against policies. And that's really what comes down to it. Why should people vote on policy? Remember, if you're working, you have a family, you have household expenses. If the government's taxing you significantly, that's less money to spend on household expenses. And that's something to bear in mind. There's no such thing as a free ride. Somebody else has to pay for it. I've attached a video to Margaret Thatcher because she describes it best. Is the state takes the money in. They shouldn't spend beyond their means, because that means they will be looking at future tax dollars or spending cuts, and that's something to bear in mind. I pulled this out for the Liberal government of Canada because the Liberal government of Canada was running on a platform that they were going to be open and transparent. So recently they've done a bunch of these campaign or fundraisings where ministers go into $1,500 plates to pay to go meet the minister. Well, on optics side, there's potential that it doesn't look good for the government. So now it's under an investigation by the ethics commissioner at the federal level to assess this. Now, anytime you do these type of things where you're bringing people together that they pay to meet with people and you treat it as a campaign fundraising, you have to assess them. Are they going to get preferential treatment in government contracts or on tax policy? And that's something that's not fair for the other people who don't want to pay the $1,500 plate or other type of agreements in terms of contributing money to meet people. And it should be open and transparent. It should be available to everybody, and not just key people that can support Liberal funding or campaign funding, right? Because in a campaign, they depend on donors. So if you're trying to get donors to come in, you have to watch, are you being paid for a certain reason? And that's something you need to bear in mind. Now, the top 1%, I put this video up for a reason, okay, is you get a lot of people on the far left talking about the 1%. Well, the 1% have invest their money, and they usually get it into stock market, real estate, other investment opportunities. So the idea is we tax income, not wealth. So a lot of cases when you get some of these left people speaking, in this particular case Stuart Barney brought in somebody from the far left on a debate about taxation policies and wealth. Well, if you take away from the wealth creators, you're taking away from job creation. Job creation is critical to drive an economy because it's the private sector growth that drives what's going on, because 2/3 of an economy is consumer spending, and that's driven by the private sector. What questions do you ask? How do you pay for your promises? Are you going to create the conditions for economic growth? How are you going to protect my family? How are you going to protect the environment? How are you going to support education and healthcare? Now, I only highlighted the 5 points here. There's probably more policies there, but the key point is you need to be asking key questions as part of the debate when you're electing an official. And if they don't give you the right answers and it's not supported with tangible evidence, then you should question them whether or not they're going to be successful in their role as government for you. So now, I did this presentation to highlight things when you're having discussion, debate with policy, and especially with government officials. It's very critical as you're driving this to understand that taxation is the base of how they fund programs. If taxation rates are too high, then you take the incentive of people to work, and it's something to bear in mind. The other thing too is you have to be competitive because you're shipping goods outside your country, or as well as existing business have to support competition. So if you're creating the conditions that are not cost competitive, then business investment will go elsewhere. So this is things to bear in mind when you're asking questions on any sort of state, municipal, provincial, or federal election. Thank you.